Okay, we're gonna go now with research problem. So we're gonna try to discuss about research problem. So we're gonna be very specific right now. The first is you have economic adaptation of displaced women educators during pandemic. So this is basically a needs analysis. No, we want to find out what happened to the displaced educators adaptation, no, during pandemic. So the other one is COVID-19 pandemic as a negative effect on the mental health and well-being of the students. So I think that's really a problem, no? So these first two statements are really, really important problems to tackle. So that's how they identify the problem. The first is on the economic aspect of women educators because I think this is very, very important when there was massive layoff, no, because of the pandemic, especially on private schools, especially I think there's about like over 400 schools nationwide who stopped or suspended their operations. So in the public school there's lesser problem because of course their salaries are paid by the government, so it's consistently being delivered through their ATMs. Well, the private school, they're the most affected, no? Especially those teachers who are in the private sector, in the private schools, no? The other one is the mental health, no? So yeah, I mean, even if you speak to your friends, you speak to your family and classmates, there are really stories that tell you uh, they kind of feel different during these times because it's something new. It is something that they experience for the first time. So you really expect that there are disruptions in terms of their mental health, no? Like for example, how they cope with worries, for example, how they cope with health protocol. I mean the effect of having to follow health protocols, having to pay, for example, fines if they're caught not wearing certain masks, or even how to uh, to go along in a day, no? Like I don't have load, for example. I cannot go to my class. So what do I do, right? And in fact, there are some students who stop going to school. Students who consider many other decisions, no? Maybe they're depressed or maybe they have some other factors that affect them. So technically, these are problems. No? From these problems, I'm sure there are many researches or many studies that can be conducted. So technically, if you look around, it's easy to find the problems that you can research on. Okay. Okay, we'll skip into the heavy metals. I think these are natural problems, no? Especially mga diseases, things like scientifically there are missing facts or things that you need to solve because if they are not going to be solved, they may pose some risks or hazards, no? Okay, so uh, you have to state the research question in order for you to start up your research, no? For example, the COVID-19 pandemic has a negative effect on the mental health and well-being of the students, then that already is a statement. It's a problem already, no? Like assessment difficulty, teachers do not know how to assess properly. Maybe students do not know where to run if they if they're very very uncomfortable with online education. So you pose the question, no? How COVID-19 affects the mental health and well-being of the students. From that one question, you can already do your research, no? Because from that one question, you can already break down what are the things that you can find out from that very one question. Okay? So later on, we're gonna be understanding it more on how to do it. So this time it's just plainly on identifying the problem and constructing a question about it, no? Because from the question you know that you have to answer the question this way. It's the how or maybe it's the what, okay, etc etc. and some other questions. So the what, there's a how, what are the negative effects of COVID-19 to the students, how are the students responding to the government's restriction. So the what, the how here is basically, uh, I mean, how COVID-19 affects the mental health. It's maybe the consequential reaction of students, if we're going to talk about students, of uh, of of pandemic. If it's mental health, how, so it may be like resulting to some form of depression, resulting to lesser productivity, no manifestations. So what are the negative effects? So this is like enumerating or listing or validating the list of the negative effects. How are the students responding to the government restriction? There are protocols, there are rules that if we don't follow, we're gonna be penalized. Excuse me, penalized. So how are students responding to this restriction? Right? So this is also some forms of actions, some forms of responses, no? So it answers the question of how. How do they respond? Okay. When you talk about identifying problems and forming questions, we need to be reminded of these three things, no? Because research, although it's a very very valuable undertaking, very important aspect of finding knowledge and contributing knowledge to uh, the body of works in this world in terms of knowledge and information. But three things has to be reminded of. First is feasibility. So when you talk about feasibility, it talks about time. No, do you have the time to do it? Do you have the funds to do it? Are there respondents for it? Then the facilities needed and the methodologies. No, so these are things that you have to think on because you cannot do it without these things. Okay, the feasibility. Maybe you wanted to, if you are a student for now, uh, if you don't have funds, well, it's kind of difficult if you want to study the correct, the correct or uh, discovering or inventing vaccines or other instruments to combat uh, the COVID-19 pandemic, no? Uh, so it's kind of difficult if you don't have resources. So that thing is you have to at least reflect whether that's even feasible or not, no, at your certain situation. Okay, I mean, if you belong to a big company, then it's possible. But if you're a student, then you have to think twice, no, first. Or maybe, of course, there are some other actions like you can do proposals and intentionally propose it to other companies or agencies, no. But then I'm just trying to demonstrate that feasibility involves many other things, no. So significance, okay. For example, if you're yes, you're feasible, you can do it. Very much, it's something that is doable. But then, is it something significant, right? Because you're going to spend time, money, you're going to meet a lot of people or at least analyze, and it requires energy and analysis, no? So, is it something that is significant, something that you can apply in the real world, like in teaching, no? Does it make it easier or does it make the student's life easier? Or when you process your business permit, will it make them feel that it's convenient, etc. No? Are you feeling a gap? Is it something contributory to a certain field like linguistics or biology? Right? So consider significance. Okay. The next one is researchable. Although it's the least, no, for me, of importance because the fact that research is something that is supposed to be new, no, you have to research. So, but of course, researchability, like, uh, if you wanna find, maybe you have to consider, like, if you wanna find out something, do you have other references, for example, or can you, like, because research you need some forms of validation to some extent, no? Can you find them? Do you have uh, materials, for example, or resources for validation? or to corroborate information. So there, no? So you have to also think about that, the researchability of your problem. So if one of these is failing, then you have to rethink, no? Whether the problem or the question that you're asking is something that is worth pursuing, no, for a research. So these are the references.